How powerful are our thoughts exactly? How can our feelings affect our lives? How did the New Age movement begin? And what were the events that led up to it? What is the law of attraction and how does it relate to us? Is there a darker history lurking beneath its positive facade? All this and more, only on Edge of Wonder.
Hey everyone, we're really excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about the law of attraction. There are a lot of you out there that have been enamored by a book called The Secret, and as they say in the book, the secret is the law of attraction.
There are a lot of people out there really excited about this law of attraction and the empowerment that they felt from applying it, and then seeing results with gaining things in their own personal lives.
We wanted to explore this law of attraction topic and give you a fresh perspective that hopefully helps you live out your lives to the fullest. Yeah, that's what we're all about.
But at the same time, and especially within this law of attraction, we wanted to take an opportunity to point out some rather unhealthy ways of interpreting this law. These can lead to stronger attachments to personal gain and an inability to rise above in your lives.
Just like any Edge of Wonder video, we're going to talk about the history of the law of attraction, and we've dug and found things that probably none of you are expecting.
We'll talk about your thoughts, your feelings, how these can positively affect your lives, and the law of attraction and occult practices and even pop culture.
So sit back, grab your popcorn, and get ready for a crazy ride through history and our funky manufactured reality.
For those of you that don't know, the law of attraction is a term that became popular over the last 15 years after a film and a book were published called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The film was released first, followed by the book.
The book is categorized as a self-help book, and we'd add with a spiritual and philosophical undertone. To make a long story short, the book was a hit and very quickly spread throughout the Western world, selling over 30 million copies. That's a lot of books. There are even law of attraction planner books being sold now that help people visualize living out these principles.
The directions and experiences in the book and movie revolve around making yourself feel good and sending out intentions about what you want, so you could have positive thoughts that help you manifest the future or the situation that you want in almost any regard.
If you have an ailment, it's about positive thoughts that prescribe you to not be in that situation. If you want money or some kind of success, it would be about having positive thoughts that help you manifest that success.
Even though there's a lot of criticism about this idea, saying there's no scientific evidence that the secret works, people everywhere swear by its effectiveness with what the author calls stories of miracles, flooding in after the release of the film. There are also claims that it doesn't work.
So the question remains, is this law true? And if it is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? And how should we as humans use it if it's real? Well, that's just what we're going to explore. The law of attraction is described as having taken form in something called the New Thought movement.
The New Thought movement was a result of a series of writings by a man named Phineas Quimby. Quimby was diagnosed with tuberculosis, and when prescriptions weren't working, he seemingly did the impossible and healed himself through positive thoughts.
Now, it's important to note here that the first time the phrase law of attraction appeared was in a book from a Russian occultist named Helena Blavatsky. This will be important later on in this episode. The book was called Isis Unveiled and was published in 1877.
Also, a part of the New Thought movement was a man named Charles Haanel. Charles was quoted in the book The Secret more than almost any other historical figure.
One of his quotes in the book is, quote, "The predominant thought or the mental attitude is the magnet, and the law is that like attracts like. Consequently, the mental attitude will invariably attract such conditions as correspond to its nature."
Another person involved in the movement was a man named Prentice Mulford. He is quoted in the book as saying, "Every thought of yours is a real thing, a force," which may seem like an accurate, innocent statement, but we'll get into that later.
Prentice had no notable success in his life, really. He ran for office once, but lost. I guess he couldn't law of attract to win. and edited for several newspapers where he became known for his humorous style of writing. He did, however, write several works that influenced the New Thought movement greatly. One of his books was called Your Forces and How to Use Them, and another called Thoughts Are Things, all of which are pretty much true.
To sum it up, the New Thought movement introduced a set of interesting concepts such as positive thinking, visualization, oneself having power, and of course the law of attraction.
What a lot of people don't know is that the New Thought movement spawned the New Age movement that developed in the 70s. Now, this story gets much deeper, but we'll need to explain this law and how it works first.
Now, for all of you who watch Edge of Wonder frequently, we talk about the importance of thoughts all the time. Well, in The Secret, thoughts are what everything is revolved around. So let's talk about them.
Dr. Emoto, who was featured in our Saturn Symbols episode, showed us that thoughts can have a huge impact on matter. One of Emoto's experiments applied thoughts to ice crystals, freezing, and tracked the results. The results of the experiment were really eye-opening.
In fact, the Buddha said, quote, "All that we are is a result of what we have thought." Now, this is an extremely profound statement, and Rob and I would not recommend taking it at face value.
The discussion in The Secret revolves heavily around your thoughts. Let's explore what it says about thoughts and how we can understand and put these into good use.
In The Secret, there is an excerpt about thoughts and how they work. It says, "You may know of people who acquired massive wealth, lost it all, and within a short time acquired massive wealth again. What happened in these cases, whether they knew it or not, is that their dominant thoughts were on wealth. That is how they acquired it in the first instance."
It goes on to say, quote, "Then they allowed fearful thoughts of losing the wealth to enter their minds until those fearful thoughts of loss became their dominant thoughts. They tipped the scales from thinking thoughts of wealth to thinking thoughts of loss, and so they lost it all. Once they had lost it, however, the fear of loss disappeared, and they tipped the scales back with dominant thoughts of wealth, and the wealth returned."
What's interesting is that the paragraph revolves around wealth and manifesting wealth through your thoughts. What it's saying is ultimately that you can lose or gain things through the outcome of how you place your thoughts.
Now, a larger and healthy conversation that's had in The Secret related to thoughts is about health and illness. We are trained as a society to fear illness. It says,
quote, "If our entire bodies are placed within a few years, as science has proven, then how can it be that degeneration or illness remains in our bodies for years? It can only be held there by thoughts, by observation of the illness, and by the intention given to the illness."
This excerpt might be a little extreme as it's talking about illness as only being able to exist due to thought. Any medical doctor would tell you otherwise, and a spiritual practitioner might tell you that there is some kind of arrangement behind the illness.
But perhaps there is some truth to this, as many people who've applied positive thinking towards illness have indeed seemed to get better. We know that the more worry someone has, the worse stress on the body as a result.
Now that we've discussed thoughts related to The Secret, let's go back and talk about what the Buddha said before. All that we are is a result of what we have thought.
Yeah, let's talk about monasteries in China. Monks would leave society to purify their thoughts. Giving up wealth or possessions was the first thing on the list. It wasn't just professional monks that would do this. Amateur Buddhist practitioners who have had these possessions would place importance on not being attached to those losses or gains while in society.
To obtain enlightenment, they would try to rid themselves of desires, attachments, and even thoughts. They did this because any thought could have a consequence or be an attachment.
An attachment could be a desire, or something even worse. And their objective was to rise above human thoughts and transcend so that they could leave the human world. In essence, Christian monks and nuns follow similar principles.
Back to the wealth issue, it's important to think about how one of these professional cultivators trying to ascend would look at the issue of wealth. Monks would take a more natural approach to wealth or to losing something.
In Christian religions, they would emphasize faith. Have we ever thought about why? They would say that regardless of their thoughts, they believe that the divine is taking care of them.
In the case of a monk whose only form of wealth was a begging bowl for food, they would allow the universe to provide for them and have faith that what they were given was all that they needed, and due to that, be much happier in the process.
So even though they didn't have as much as the man with wealth, their hearts were much more full and happy. And this was largely due to having no attachment to the loss or gains of this human world.
We're bringing this up towards the end of this conversation, not as a deterrent to people using their thoughts, but more as a question. Since your thoughts are powerful, what do you really want to use them for?
Furthermore, is there a result from using thoughts? We'll get into that soon. The natural extension of thoughts are feelings. In The Secret, it says,
quote, your thoughts determine your frequency and your feelings tell you immediately what frequency you are on. As you feel bad and don't make any effort to change your thoughts and feel better, you are in effect saying, quote, bring me more circumstances that will make me feel bad. Bring it on, unquote.
So we're not allowed to feel bad after something that happened, and because of that, we're bringing more to us? There is some truth to this statement. As humans, we can really determine the result of the environment around us, because our thoughts are really that powerful.
In The Secret, there are many examples of how to clear your mind and express gratitude to change your feelings. But the reality is, some people can't change their feelings or suffer from depression, so a much more holistic approach to feelings really needs to be taken in regards to this.
So according to The Secret, feelings tell you what you're thinking, and this allows you to change your thoughts to focus on manifesting what you desire.
In traditional cultivation practices, feelings are precisely what you try to get rid of. Here they're being encouraged. Why? One thing to keep in mind is that within this belief system, strong human feelings are being encouraged to keep your state of mind in a situation to help you manifest things and positively visualize things.
In traditional practices, feelings are the root of the issue, and instead of trying to change the feelings, a monk or an amateur practitioner tries to let go and fundamentally improve, which then leads to a deep form of happiness.
The reason the latter seems healthier in this regard is that you're facing the issue dead on, and the result is not relying on fleeting feelings or fleeting things of what you can obtain in this world, but instead something you can obtain in the life beyond. Also, there's less pursuit.
Which leads to our next discussion. It's fair to say that anytime anyone says anything absolutely, we would probably be a little careful of that advice. In science, an absolute statement or definition can be devastating because it would limit further breakthroughs. That's why usually things are stated as theories, as it leaves room for improvement.
With spiritual development, this would be doubly so, because as we make changes inside, we become aware of new principles and might see a clearer picture of how the universe operates. Let's read an excerpt from the book The Secret.
Quote, it is the law that determines the complete order in the universe. Every moment of your life and every single thing you experience in your life. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are. The law of attraction is forming your entire life experience. And this all-powerful law is doing that through your thoughts. You are the one who calls the law of attraction into action, and you do it through your thoughts.
This excerpt is telling us that not only the law of attraction is the most all-powerful law, but we have to ask, is that true? If that's what it's saying, it's a little bit limited and could kind of be dangerous. I mean, are there other laws?
The Secret says the law of attraction is a law of nature. It is impersonal and it does not see good things or bad things. It is receiving your thoughts and reflecting back to you those thoughts as your life experience. The law of attraction simply gives you whatever it is you are thinking about.
But this simply isn't quite true. The universe does see good and bad. It's why the law of karma and karmic retribution exists. In Christianity, they call this sin. No sin, no pain, and no suffering. Good and bad exists. The universe is not impersonal. It's fair.
Many of you might ask, well, how can you prove karma exists? This kind of comes down to your own personal beliefs, but if you open your mind to it, you'll see it in action. I mean, I know I have for sure.
Karma can come in different forms too, right? Karma can also be used by the universe to encourage a specific path towards spiritual development. In Buddhist cultivation, it's believed that if you have no more karma, you can leave this world. So monks would focus on suffering and improvement.
Karma can also come in the form of illness or monetary loss. There are many people in the finance community using the law of attraction right now to manifest the money or success that they want to see. And while it's true that humans have this power, there are other laws at play that determine whether that success happens, and one of them is definitely karma.
Now let's talk about the yin and yang. Newton's third law says, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Did you know that this law doesn't just exist in science?
You've all heard of the yin-yang symbol, right? You know, the one you've got a tattoo on your back with some Chinese characters when you're 18 and, in my case, 24.
Jeez. Wait a minute. Do you really have one of those? I wrote that in there and I didn't even know. This just got better. All right.
I do.
Well, this symbol is actually extremely important. It's said to not only exist as a symbol, but also physically in other dimensions.
In a nutshell, the yin and yang symbol basically says that the universe is in perfect harmony between good and bad, right and wrong, and black and white, etc.
But it isn't just about an overarching set of forces in the universe. For every action, there is a reaction, holds here as well. When you do something good, there is a reaction. Perhaps you get something good. There is an exchange.
When you do something bad, there is an exchange as well, and you have to pay for your actions. And this also coincides with karma. So in a nutshell, when you give something, you get something in return. And when you get something, you have to give up something.
According to this law, we should be careful what we ask for, because when we get something, we have to give something. If you go into a store, you have to exchange a type of energy called currency to buy a product.
If this law manifests even in the most simple form in human society, it would only then make sense that this law permeates the universe. So we encourage everyone to think about what they ask for and why.
The history of the law of attraction. Okay guys, and now it's time to get into the juicy stuff. Remember before we were saying it all started with Helena Petrovna Blavatsky mentioning the law of attraction in her book Isis Unveiled?
The title of this book is telling, as Isis is a very controversial figure in the occult community. Nowadays, the Cabal uses Isis for a lot of their occult symbolism.
Blavatsky's role in the formation of this law of attraction cannot be understated. But what were the foundation for her writings?
We have to understand that the first secret societies came after the Holy Crusades. The Crusaders were exposed to many new ideas in the Middle East, and these stories retold the story of the devil giving Eve the apple, such as Lucifer was God who gave Eve the true knowledge and was considered the light bringer. And the God in the Bible was just a weak old God.
The new ideas they encountered heralded from Greece, India, Egypt, and more. When the Crusaders returned home, they knew that they'd be put to death for talking about these things, so they created several secret societies where men were sworn to secrecy under oaths and pain of death if they talked about anything outside the circle.
These secret societies were the Templars, the Rosicrucians, and Freemasons. And we know that the French Freemasons stem directly from the Templars. We'll get into why this is important in a moment.
For years, these new ideas and teachings were hidden and talked about only in secrecy. They were also present in other books, such as the Kabbalah. That is, until in 1888, Blavatsky, the woman who basically coined the term the law of attraction, published a book called The Secret Doctrine that made all of these secret occult teachings public. The Secret Doctrine.
Blavatsky created the Theosophical Society in what's now called Theosophy, which is a religion. The teachings revolve around Luciferian doctrine. And how do we know that?
Well, she herself said that Lucifer is the only god for our planet, and even had a theosophical magazine called Lucifer. We'd like you to pay attention to this image we're providing here, and please have a look at who the other editor is on the title page. Mabel Collins. Collins is one of the 13 bloodline names.
Upon researching Mabel Collins, you find her relationship to the Theosophical Society and a rather intimate relationship with none other than
Jack the Ripper.
She was convinced she knew who Jack the Ripper was and that he had great magical powers. But this story is a little outside the scope of this episode.
But should it be in another episode? Aleister Crowley considered his greatest magical connection to be Madame Blavatsky. Crowley is a huge bag of cats. He continued Blavatsky's work and created several branches of societies and religions that we'll mention here. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, OTO or Ordo Templi Orientis, and Thelema. Hermetic.
OTO and Thelema are both branches of Freemasonry, and by branches we mean that there is still a direct connection. Thelema branched off from OTO because Crowley wanted more control. And why are we mentioning all of this?
Charles Hannell is probably quoted more than any other person in The Secret. Hannell was a Freemason and a Shriner. He was also a member of the Society of Rosicrucians. Remember we spoke earlier about the Rosicrucians being one of the secret societies founded after the Crusades? Another fun fact is he was also the president of the Mexico Gold and Silver Mining Company.
It's kind of curious.
Yes.
If you understand how the deep state has controlled gold and money, only someone on the inside would be president of such a society. Is this a hypothesis? Yes. But only people close to the families are allowed to get that close to gold.
We just mentioned Hannell was a Freemason and a Rosicrucian. Look at this screenshot we've taken from the opening segment of The Secret film. So there's a direct connection here with the Rosicrucians.
But back to Lucifer. We know Blavatsky and these secret societies revolved around Luciferian doctrine. So what is Luciferian doctrine specifically? And why is it so bad?
Well, to condense and simplify, we recommend that you watch Hans Wilhelm break down Luciferian doctrine, which we'll show a little bit at the end of this segment. Luciferian doctrine claims that Lucifer is the god of this earth. Luciferian doctrine also tells us that we are God and create our own universe.
Why this is important is that this doctrine was only spoke about secretly in those secret societies until Madame Blavatsky made these teachings public and they became a part of the New Thought movement.
We're not telling you all this to upset anyone, but rather to take a fresh look at what we consume and understand it better. Generally speaking, our souls come to this earth to complete spiritual tasks or resolve karma and other things to eventually go back to our homes in the heavens.
And since humans were created by the divine, literally every major religious text tells us man was created in the image of God. The body naturally possesses this connection and some abilities.
According to Luciferian doctrine, everything becomes centered on Earth. As we said, they call Lucifer the god of Earth. Because our bodies are so special and are connected to the universe, what a human wants is important. Because of that, the law of attraction really does come into play.
What Luciferian doctrine tries to tell us is to focus on this world and on the successes, riches, power, fame of this world, thereby becoming distracted and forgetting our true purpose and eventually being forced into what's called a Faustian bargain.
The reason being, as we stated before, that energy and actions have exchange. Just as the law of attraction may be a legitimate law, so is the law of yin and yang, where every action has a reaction. Every transaction has a cost.
Whether you're doing this on purpose or not, the point of Luciferian doctrine is to loosen you up and have your focus elsewhere, on the temptations of this world, so that when you depart this world, you're now a servant to the Lord of this world.
The dangers in thinking you are your own God or your own creator is that eventually you are accountable only to yourself, and anything you do isn't good or bad. It's just whatever you want to do, and there are no repercussions. But according to our discussion, if karma or sin really does exist, this understanding doesn't quite work out.
Guys, this is not what we're saying. What we're trying to do is break down for you what Lucifer and Luciferian doctrine is.
Okay. Don't go anywhere, because even though this has gotten a bit heavy, and we've likely blown a few people's minds with tracking back the history of this law of attraction, we're going to talk about how to understand the law of attraction in a healthy way very soon.
It's helpful to take a look at who's pushing the law of attraction in society to see if we can glean some conclusions from peripheral data.
From watching our Deep State series and many of our other episodes, you might be aware of how much control the Deep State has, especially over things like Hollyweird. We're starting to see a chain reaction of these people being exposed.
We've seen this most recently with people like Harvey Weinstein, Allison Mack with Nexium, and more. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone is connected to the Illuminati, but many stars, especially those in music, are revealed to be connected through the symbolism in their video and many accounts you can find yourselves online.
Here's a list of people who push the law of attraction or the book The Secret in society. Oprah, Katy Perry, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye West, Lady Gaga, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Steve Harvey, Will Smith, Tony Robbins, and multiple rappers, to name a few.
The point is, if Hollyweird is controlled by the deep state, which if you've been following for our show for a while, we've provided much evidence of that, the question remains, Why push this into society so hard if it wasn't part of some agenda?
It's also important to mention that many of the artists above have been tied to monarch mind control and Hollyweird. We know this from public breakdowns they've had, symbolism in their videos as we mentioned above, and more. And if you don't believe that, we'll include a link of a video by a dude that we've watched that has put all of this together, and you can judge for yourselves.
Many of the people involved in the film The Secret seem to be generally good people who have a positive outlook on life and even have personal stories that back up their thinking having an effect on the trajectory of their life.
Inspiration can be drawn from some of these stories, and it would be silly to say otherwise.
If there is a conspiracy revolved around this law of attraction, we're not saying everyone highlighted in that book as a part of that, by all means. They could have been used without knowing.
However, there are some people out there now channeling and making a lot of money off of this law of attraction. They've been interviewed by Oprah, and if you look at the numbers, it's a bit scary. Why?
Because nowhere in mainstream society is channeling considered mainstream. It's always been made fun of in our overly emphasized scientific method model. So if it's being pushed, you have to ask why. This isn't us saying we don't believe channeling is possible, it is just we have to take all of this very lightly. It's just the situation that's curious.
But taking a step back and digging into the history and occult connection to this movement in society is always a healthy thing to do.
The first page in the Law of Attraction says, as above, so below. As within, so without. This is arguably the biggest axiom of Hermetic philosophy.
Hermetic philosophy has been the foundational teachings for Hegelianism, Marxism, communism, numerous black magic orders, Theosophy, Thelema, Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, Gnosticism, etc. It has been the foundation for many works created by Marx, Engels, Blavatsky, Crowley, and many, many more.
Freemasons are known to try to manifest the outcomes of the world through visualizations and rituals, which is why it has been their secret for many, many years, and which they're trying to do right now with everything going on in society.
Yeah. Does the law of attraction have some truth to it? Absolutely. Jesus said, "Ask and you shall receive." But what Jesus meant may not be related to this law and may have gone a little bit deeper.
There's also a saying, quote, be careful for what you wish for because you just might get it.
Lucifer or demons in every historical work always offer the easy way out. A true path would never be that easy. There is no easy way to make spiritual progress without doing the work. And while it's not the easiest, it's the most direct in ascending.
All the great religions say that your thoughts are incredibly important. Calmness and meditation have been practiced for a millennia, and one's intentions have always been considered the key.
It's also clear that thoughts have power, and that what a human being wants does have power. And many of you who have been trying to manifest things in your life have probably seen this.
We think everyone should take a moment and think about what kind of life you want to live. Are you really only here for material gains, or do you want to utterly transcend and ascend?
If you calm down and really think this over, transcending goes well beyond material gains in this world. And maybe, just maybe, you're more important than you imagine.
You really can create your world, and what happens around you absolutely is a result and a manifestation of our thinking and where our mind is at. But with that power comes responsibility.
Kind of like the Spider-Man kind of responsibility. Many great sages throughout history have called this a world of delusion. Before the Matrix came out, these sages had already said that the human world is an illusory one where man must make decisions amidst all kinds of temptations.
So Rob and I would like to encourage you to think over what you really want and think about why you're here. You are powerful beings of the universe, but the universe has many upon many beings, not just one law. Nor is that one law more powerful than the divine creator.
And hey, thanks for attracting us into your lives. Until next time, we'll see you out
on the edge.
Okay, and guys, stick around because Hans Wilhelm has been nice enough to give us the thumbs up on showing part of his Luciferian doctrine video. Hans, thank you so much, and we hope to have you on soon in an interview.
Let's look how this doctrine influences our life. Here we have the planet Earth, where according to the Luciferian doctrine, the worldly affairs are ruled by the Lord Lucifer. Now, as spiritual beings, we come from the spiritual worlds to incarnate for a very short lifespan here on Earth. Most of us do it to clear up past karma or eventually return to a higher spiritual sphere or return even to our spiritual home from where we all came. But if we forget who we are or don't believe in life before or after death, we can easily be tempted to dedicate our life to accumulation of riches, power, fame, and other stuff that makes us important and special. We might even fall for some New Age guru teachings promising unbridled riches and abundance. Our purpose here is to develop the kingdom within and not the kingdom without. But if we want worldly riches, our god and orientation would naturally be this guy here, Lucifer, the only god of our planet, as Madame Blavatsky put it. He rules the worldly affairs, and with him many heads of politics, military, finance, and industry. But it does come with a hefty price. Anybody who aligns himself with this god of the world to obtain riches, power, fame, and so on, enters a Faustian bargain. Chances are they will become his servant after their physical death. Such energies are never given for free. Now, in addition, the Luciferian doctrine also states that we are God, which is also a very popular belief among some New Age teachings. The danger is that when we think we are God, we are convinced we can get away with anything. We feel that we are only accountable for our actions to ourselves. In other words, we could harm or even kill somebody and justify it with something that simply had to be done, without any guilt or remorse, and totally ignoring that such an action has created an enormous karma for our soul. Somebody who thinks he is God does not feel accountable to anybody else except himself.